managed to read 33 books in 2024, and this video will be my complete ranking of each and every one of them. I know this video is a little bit late. It's currently the 7th of January, but I have been ill and I really wanted to get this video out. So if I don't sound fully well, yeah, I'm not. But yeah, let's hop into the video. So I read 33 books, mainly thrillers. No, all but one were thrillers / horror / crime. And I read one fantasy book, my first fantasy book, which I really enjoyed. I only started reading from August onwards, so this is only like 4 months worth of books. And I'm not gonna lie, most of them are Freida McFadden. I think I've read nearly every single one of her main books. I haven't read any of the novellas or the short stories that she's come out with. It's all been her popular books that I've seen on TikTok, which everybody really enjoyed. So most of the list is her, I'm not gonna lie. So I have grouped all of the books together. So we've got the 1 stars, the 2 stars, the 3 stars, but it is also just a general list, a ranking list from 33 to number 1, which I enjoyed the most. So starting off, number 33 on the list in the 1 star category is Ward D. Now I did an entire video ranking my Freida books, and Ward D is still at the bottom of this list, which is a shame. Well, it's not. It was awful. I really didn't enjoy it. Yeah, no, worst book of the year, honestly, and probably worst book for a while. Like, it was one of the ones that I wouldn't recommend to anybody. I would recommend some of Freida's books. I really enjoyed some of them. She was one of like the first authors that I read this year. But Ward D, no. And I just want to say before like this carries on, this is just my opinion. Like, I know people enjoy a lot of these books that I've put very low on the list, but this is my personal opinion, and I'm sorry if you liked it and I didn't. But yeah, no. Some of these books I've ranked and I'm like, how did people even enjoy these? So if you have read one of the ones that is either a 1 star or 2 star book for me, please let me know what you enjoyed about it, because it might change my mind, it might not. Like, I want to know what aspects of these books that you really enjoyed, which made it like a 5 star book for you, because I can't see it, to be honest. Anyway, moving on. Next book is Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. I made a whole video on this book, didn't like it at all. It was so boring. Yeah, so boring. Nothing happened. I guessed the plot twist so early on, literally from the first paragraph, and I just couldn't get through it quickly. Like, I didn't want to pick it back up when I put it back down, and I hated it. These 2 books were my only 1 stars of the year, and I don't like giving books 1 star. Originally I rated Rock, Paper, Scissors 2 stars, and then after thinking about it I was like, no, this needs to be 1 star. Like, I was so close to putting it down that I shouldn't have rated it any higher than 1 star. Moving on to number 31, The Locked Door, another Freida book. The plot twist in this book didn't even make sense. Like, it just felt like it came out of nowhere. And yeah, this 31 to 28 is 2 stars, by the way. This book was a 2 star book for me. Didn't enjoy it. Didn't make sense. The plot twist happened and I was kind of sat there like, what? Number 30. Now, I read this book like a week ago. I had my Kindle for Christmas and it's the first book I read. Number 30 on this list is Incidents Around the House by Josh Malerman. I heard so many good things about this book. How did you enjoy it? How do people like this book? It's written I want to do a whole separate video on it and go into detail. It's written from the perspective of an 8-year-old. The book uses no speech marks, which made it even more confusing to read. Instead of dad, it's daddo. Nothing happens in the book. It's not scary. The ending made the whole part, the first part of the book, irrelevant. It just felt like a waste of time, and I'm so annoyed that I sat through it. I was really hoping for a good ending, and when it happened, I literally put my Kindle down, and I just sat there. Because what? I'm sure people get paid so much money to promote these books, because there's no way people are saying good things about this one. There was no, like, some of the imagery was kind of creepy when she sits on the toilet, and you know, all the stuff with the other mom. Other than that, no, wasn't creepy, wasn't scary, like, ew. The next two on the list are my final 2-star books of 2024, and they are both by the same author, both by Frida McFadden. They are The Co-worker and The Inmate. Now, I read The Co-worker pretty early on in like early September time, and it was probably, at the time, my least favourite Frida book. It was kind of predictable, knew what was going to happen, didn't really vibe with it that much. And then The Inmate, I read The Inmate not too long afterwards, and I knew exactly what was going to happen, and it just, again, felt like, why am I reading this? Apart from the epilogue with the kid, that was the only good part of the book. The rest of the book felt wasted, and the story wasn't great, and the plot twists weren't great. Yeah, no, I didn't enjoy this one as much. Next up, we have another Frida book. See, I told you there's so many. Number 27 is my first 3-star book, which is One by One. A lot of people didn't like this one at all. I preferred it over the others. I wasn't expecting the plot twist, if I remember correctly. And it was just a quick and easy read. Like, it wasn't, I didn't really have that much, like, hate, like, to it. Like, it's one of those books that kind of, like, in the middle, didn't really mind. I probably wouldn't read it again, but it was okay. Number 26 is Killer Instinct by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. A lot of people prefer this one over The Naturals. This is book 2 of the series. I just wasn't really feeling it. I read the first 2 and I haven't read the last 2 because the second book I don't know, the concept is really nice and like something different, and I just can't be bothered to read the other 2, so I moved on to the Inheritance games. But if the last 2 are any good, please let me know, because I've got them. I bought the whole series together, so if it's worth reading, I might pick them back up at some point, but I'm just not motivated to do that at the moment. I know the next one is hated by a lot of people, and I can see why. It is The Housemaid is Watching by Frida McFadden, the 3rd Housemaid book. This book was not really necessary. It felt like, I don't want to be mean and say a money grab, but it could have just been the first 2 books and that's it. Like, this book wasn't needed. The plot twist was a bit, yeah, didn't really enjoy it. Why have I got One by One twice on this list? I've just noticed that. I'm not really sure what that's supposed to be. Okay, I realised what it was. The next on the list is the one I missed off. So number 24 is Verity. Verity was the first book that got me back into reading this year. I am not a Colin Hoover fan whatsoever. I haven't read any other books. Like, Verity was the only one I saw on TikTok and I was like, damn, that looks pretty good. It was the first book I picked up in August, and I haven't stopped reading since. However, compared to the others, I just preferred them more. Verity was a good book. It's still a 3-star book for me. I loved the twist, but I just preferred other books. Simple as. Yeah, no, I still enjoyed it, but I don't think I'd read it again. I am excited, however, for the film to come out, because I want to see how that goes. The next 2 books, number 23 and 22, are by John Mars. We have Her Last Move and The Good Samaritan. I listened to these 2 on audiobook and I thoroughly enjoyed them. I thought the narrator did a really good job with all of them. I did prefer The Good Samaritan. However, I was annoyed that he died. Spoilers, sorry. I was annoyed that he died. The last 3-star book on this list, which is number 21, is None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. Same as Verity. I really enjoyed the book, but probably wouldn't read it again. And I just preferred other books over it. Yeah, it's one of the ones that you always see on TikTok, always see people recommend. Yeah, it was an enjoyable read, it was a good read. But yeah, number 21 on the list for me. Now, moving on to the 4-star books. There is quite a few of these. And at number 20, we have The Naturals. So I definitely preferred this first book over the second one. I really enjoyed it. Not a huge fan of love triangles, which is probably why I didn't enjoy the second one as much. But yeah, no, I thought it was a great idea for the book, and it's a shame I couldn't really get along with the second book. Number 19 is Then She Was Gone by Lisa Jewell. Now, I thought this was going to be some plot twisty thriller. It wasn't, but I still preferred it over None of This Is True. There was no big plot twist in the end that I couldn't see coming, and I just thought it was a really beautiful book. But yeah, the whole way through reading it, I was like, oh, something big's going to happen, something's going to go wrong. No, it didn't, but it was still a good book. I loved it. It was great. The next one we have is number 18, which is What Lies Between Us by John Mars. This was the second book I read by John Mars, my first psychological thriller by him, and I really enjoyed it. The characters were both unlikable. I didn't really know who to root for, and I just thought it was great. Number 17 and 16 on this list, again, we have some Frida McFadden, shocker. At 17 we have The Boyfriend, and at 16 we have The Housemaid. The Boyfriend is her most recent release, and I enjoyed it. Compared to some of her other books, I think this one was a very gripping sort of book. Number 16, The Housemaid, again, the first book I read by her, will forever hold a place in my heart, but I do prefer the second one. A lot of people prefer the first, but yeah, no, I preferred the plot twist in the second one, so I'd have to rank the first one a little bit lower. Number 15, we have the second book in A Good Girl's Guide to Murder series, which is Good Girl, Bad Blood by Holly Jackson. I devoured this whole series. I loved it from the first page to the very last of the third book, and if I could read them again for the first time, I would. However, the second book was my least favourite out of the 3. I just think there wasn't as much going on, and it was kind of already spoiled for me from TikTok, which I was annoyed about, because while reading the first book, I checked comments on a TikTok and it spoiled the second and third book for me. But it's fine. We moved past it. It's fine. I'm not annoyed at all. Moving on to number 14 is As Good as Dead, which is the third book in A Good Girl's Guide to Murder series. Yeah, I enjoyed this one. It was a very long read. I managed to get through it quite quickly. The ending made me so sad, because I was so frustrated that they went through all of that just for her to cut him off, and then you not get any more information apart from the text on the very last page. But yeah, I was annoyed about that. I'm really hoping she makes another book. Yeah, anyway. Then at number 13 we have The Inheritance Games. I read this one not that long ago and I thought it was a lot better than The Naturals. I hate to say that, don't come for me. There was a bit more going on and I was intrigued more in the storyline than with The Naturals. Moving on to number 12, we have my first fantasy read ever. Well, apart from when I was a kid. Number 12, we have Caraval by Stephanie Garber. I bought Fourth Wing and Powerless to read like 3 or 4 months ago and I haven't, and then I saw Caraval come up on my TikTok and I was like, oh my god, I need to read this book, and I am so glad I did because I desperately want to read the rest of the series. But I have so many books on my TBR that I can't buy anymore. But I love this book so much, so much. I was falling into the trap of believing everything the same as Scarlett did, and I was gripped from literally the first page. Number 11 is We Used to Live Here by Marcus Kluwer. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. This was my first kind of horror book, and compared to Incidents Around the House, this book gave me the chills. Like, I was on the edge of my seat throughout this book, and I'm so annoyed about that ending. And I know he's probably releasing another book, but I had so much hope for the end and I was so let down. This is why the book is not as high up as some of the others. I was so disappointed at the ending, so annoyed. Now, if you follow me on Instagram, you will know how much I love Steve Kavanagh books. He's one of my favourite authors, and every single book that I've read by him is in my top 10 so far. Next up, number 10 and number 9 are both books by Steve Kavanagh. We have 50/50 and The Devil's Advocate. 50/50 was great, however, I expected the end. That's why it's lower down for me. The Devil's Advocate, I thoroughly enjoyed purely because of the plot twist in the courtroom with the camera in the pajamas. The way Steve Kavanagh lays out the court and how it all unveils is my favourite part of the books in every single one of the Eddie Flynn series. I just love it. I am so excited when they finally get to court and start revealing all the evidence. I'm like gripping the book, like on the edge of my seat. Like, I love it so much. Number 8, we have the first book of A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. This one's higher up than the others because I read it in one sitting. I couldn't put it down at all. Loved every single second of it. Number 7, back to Steve Kavanagh, is Witness 8, which is his most recent release. And it was the first book I read. I was just gobsmacked by everything that was happening. Loved it. It got me into the series. You don't have to read the series in order if you are looking into the Eddie Flynn series. I read Witness 8, which is number 8 in the series, and then I read 13, which is number 4 or 5. So you don't have to read them in order. There are characters which cross over and you do learn their backstory before you carry on into the book. Yeah, no, very good. The whole of 2024, I had 6 5-star books. Starting off with number 6, we have Never Lie. So many people love this book, and I can see why. This was one of the Freedom McFadden books that I genuinely enjoyed. The storyline is not basic like some of her other books. I genuinely thought, wow, this is a good book. Number 5, we have The Teacher. A lot of people don't like this one. I can see why. It's very gross, it's very cringy. A lot of people could feel uncomfortable with it. I genuinely enjoyed it. After hearing so many negative reviews about it, I was reading it and I was like, this is good. Why don't people like it? And then number 4, we have the last Frida book on this list, which is The Housemaid's Secret. My all-time favourite book by her. Loved it, loved how the ending all came together. It was just perfect. Wasn't expecting any of it. And I genuinely would recommend this to anybody. The whole series, apart from maybe the last one. Number 3, we have The Silent Patient. I saw this one on TikTok when I first started reading, and I guessed the plot twist, but I loved the way it was written. I thought it was perfect. I genuinely would read it again, and I would recommend it to anybody. Now, number 2, if you've seen my socials, you'll know that these two will always be number 2, like top 2. Number 2, we have 13. It's very close between these two books, but number 2 I have put as 13 by Steve Kavanagh. Perfect is the word. Perfect. If you haven't read this book, you need to read this book. I've done a whole video on it. Just the writing is beautiful. The characters are great. Love it. Even the concept of the book is just amazing. Number 1 is my favourite book of the year. It is my favourite book of all time. I've read the book. I've listened to the audiobook while working. It is The Family Experiment by John Marrs. I can't even put into words how much I love this book. Like, it's incredible. The plot twists were amazing. And I just love the aspect that you can read from everybody's point of view. I'm pretty sure I read it all in one sitting. It was just, love it. Would read it 1,000,000 times. Again and again and again. And if I could promote this book for the rest of my life, I would. For free. Like, it's that good. It's more of a sci-fi than a thriller. However, there are so many plot twists between each family that it was perfect. Love them both. Amazing. Read it. But that is all for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.